Came home with a tan, a duty-free shopping bag, and the biggest smile I'd seen on his face in 2 years. I stood in the doorway watching him set his suitcase down in the entryway, and all I could think was, he actually thinks this is fine. "Hey, babe," he said, pulling me into a hug. He smelled like airport and something expensive. Cologne he hadn't packed when he left. "God, I missed you." I hugged him back. I counted to 3. "Welcome home," I said. "You look rested." He laughed like that was the funniest thing. 10 days of conference sessions will do that to you. Conference sessions. Right. I'd had 10 days to think about what I was going to say. 10 days to sit with what I knew, what I could prove, and what I was going to do about it. I didn't spend those 10 days falling apart. I want to be clear about that, because if you're listening and you've been in a situation like this, the worst thing anyone ever told me was that I should have acted immediately. Acted in what way? With what? Rage and tears and nothing to stand on? No. I spent those 10 days getting everything I needed, and when he walked through that door, I was ready. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My husband and I had been married for 6 years. We met when I was 26, at a work happy hour, the kind where you only go because your coworker guilt trips you into it. He was funny. He was confident without being arrogant, at least back then. We dated for 2 years, got engaged, got married, bought a townhouse in Charlotte, North Carolina, adopted a dog named Biscuit. I thought we were building something real. I work as a financial analyst. I say that not to be impressive, but because it matters to the story. I notice numbers. I notice when things don't add up. It's not something I can turn off, even at home. He works in B2B software sales, which means travel, which meant I was used to him being gone. Chicago, Austin, Atlanta, the usual circuit. I'd stopped asking for detailed itineraries years ago. I trusted him. Or I thought I did. In February, he told me he had a 10-day sales kickoff in Phoenix. His whole regional team was going, he said. Big company event, lots of strategy sessions, dinners with leadership, that kind of thing. He'd be staying at the conference hotel, he said, and cell service would be spotty because the venue was weirdly dead. I said 10 days is a long time. He said, I know, but this one's important. It counts toward my Q1 bonus. I said okay. I kissed him goodbye on a Tuesday morning. Biscuit and I watched him back out of the driveway. And then I went to work. The first thing I noticed was 3 days in. He'd been texting me regularly, short, normal texts. Good morning, long day, miss you, going to dinner now, might be late. Nothing unusual, but I was logging into our joint bank account to pay the electric bill, and I saw a charge I didn't recognize. Camelback Inn, Scottsdale, Arizona, $847. Now if his company was putting him up at a conference hotel, he wouldn't be charging personal hotels to our joint account. That was the first thought. The second thought was, Scottsdale is not Phoenix. They're neighboring cities. Close, but different. I told myself it was probably just a mix-up. Maybe they'd overflowed into a nearby property. Companies do that. I screenshot it and kept moving. 2 days later, another charge. Lawns at the Hermosa. $213. That's a restaurant. A very nice restaurant. A restaurant that has candles on every table and a wine list that starts at $60 a bottle. His per diem for client dinners was $85. I put that screenshot next to the first one in a folder on my phone, and I started paying closer attention. By day 6, I had 4 charges. The hotel, Camelback Inn, which I looked up and found was a AAA 5-diamond resort with a spa, private casitas, and a saltwater pool. A spa charge. Dinner at Lawns. And a wine shop in Old Town Scottsdale. $178 at a wine shop. My husband doesn't drink wine. He's a beer guy. Always has been. I sat at my kitchen table with Biscuit's head in my lap, and I thought about every possible innocent explanation. His company accidentally billed us. He was entertaining a client and used the wrong card. He upgraded his room on points and was treating himself. I thought about all of those. And then I opened Instagram. He'd kept his location sharing turned off with me since we got a new phone plan 2 years ago. He said it drained his battery. I hadn't pushed, but his coworker, a guy I'll call his work friend, someone who'd been to our house for dinner twice, had posted a story 4 days earlier from a rooftop bar. I almost scrolled past it. Then I stopped. In the background of that story, very slightly out of focus but completely identifiable, was my husband. Standing with his arm around a woman I didn't recognize, they were laughing at something. She had her hand on his chest. I stared at that image for a long time. The work friend's story had expired, but I'd seen it in time. I screenshotted it. And then I did something I'd never done before in my marriage. I hired someone, not a private investigator exactly, more like a digital research service that a friend of mine had used during her own divorce 2 years prior. It costs money, and I don't recommend it lightly, but it also confirmed within 48 hours that my husband was registered as a guest at Camelback Inn under both his name and a second guest. The second guest's name was one I recognized. His former colleague, a woman who had left his company 8 months ago and I now realized had never actually stopped communicating with him. I'd seen her name in his phone once. He'd said she was just a contact he was keeping warm for a potential referral. I hadn't thought about it again. I thought about it again. I thought about it for the remaining 4 days he was in Scottsdale. I thought about it while I ate dinner alone, while I walked biscuit around the neighborhood, while I sat across from my laptop at 11 p.m. building a tidy little document with dates, charges, screenshots, and a timeline. I did not call him crying. I did not text him accusations. I did not do anything that would tip him off. I called a family law attorney in Charlotte instead. I had a consultation on day 8. I learned what I needed to know about North Carolina divorce law, about marital assets, about what documentation would matter, and then I made one more call, to my bank, to quietly separate my direct deposit into an account that was mine alone. By the time he landed back at Charlotte Douglas and texted me, "Just touched down. Can't wait to see you," I was ready. I'm going to be honest with you. When he walked through the door, part of me still felt it. 6 years. That's real. Watching him come in looking happy and relaxed and relieved to be home. Some part of me wanted to believe I had it all wrong. That the photos were misleading, that the charges had a boring explanation, that the woman's name in the research report was a coincidence. I gave that part of me exactly 3 seconds. He set his duty-free bag on the counter. Perfume. My favorite, actually. He'd remembered the brand, or maybe he'd Googled it. He said, "I grabbed this for you in the terminal. They had a deal." I said, "That was thoughtful. Thank you." He started talking about the flight. Turbulence over Memphis. The man next to him who wouldn't stop talking. How he couldn't wait to sleep in his own bed. I poured us both a glass of water. I handed his to him. And then, very calmly, I said, "Hey, random question. Is she doing okay?" He looked at me. "Who?" "Your colleague. The one you kept in touch with. The one who left your company." I used her first name. Quietly. No accusation in my voice. Just casual curiosity. The glass stopped halfway to his mouth. I watched his face do 6 different things in about 2 seconds. The smile didn't disappear all at once. It kind of drained, like something pulling the color out of a photograph. "What do you mean?" he said. "I saw something," I said. "I just want to make sure she's okay." She looked a little thin in the photo. He set the glass down. What photo? Not a question, a statement. He already knew the conversation had changed. "The one from the rooftop," I said. "You two look like you were having fun. Lawns is supposed to be great, by the way. I've always wanted to go." The silence that followed was one of the strangest of my life. He stood there in our kitchen in his travel clothes, and I could see him trying to calculate. What did I know? How did I know? How did I know it? What was the right move? I watched him run through it in real time. "Babe," he started. "I also want to mention," I said, picking up my water glass, "that I spoke to an attorney on Thursday, and I've moved my direct deposit, so whenever you're ready to have the actual conversation, I'm here." He sat down on a bar stool. He didn't say anything for almost a full minute. Then, "How long have you known?" "Long enough," I said. "The Camelback Inn is lovely, by the way. 5 Diamond. I looked it up." He put his face in his hands. He didn't cry. At least not then. He just sat there, and I stood there, and Biscuit came in from the living room and looked back and forth between us like he was trying to figure out the vibe. I'll spare you the details of that first conversation, because honestly it was a lot of talking in circles, and some things that were said that I don't need to repeat here. What I will tell you is that it confirmed everything. He didn't deny it. He actually seemed almost relieved that I already knew, which is a very particular kind of insult I hadn't expected. Like I'd saved him the trouble of figuring out how to confess. What came next was not fast, and it was not clean, but it was mine to control. I had already laid the groundwork. I had documentation, I had legal advice, I had a separate account with money that was mine. I had not been passive for 10 days, I had been preparing. And that preparation meant I walked into the next chapter of my life on my own terms, not scrambling to catch up. We separated in March. The process took several months, as it does. North Carolina requires a 1-year separation before a divorce can be finalized, so that's where we are, and the waiting. The house is being handled. Biscuit stays with me. That was non-negotiable. There's a moment from those first few weeks that I keep coming back to. I was sitting outside on the back patio one night, just me and the dog, and my phone rang. It was my older sister. She'd been one of the few people I'd told, and she'd been incredibly steady through the whole thing. She asked how I was doing, and I said, honestly, I don't know yet. She said, that's okay. You don't have to know yet. And I think about that a lot. You don't have to have the clean ending figured out immediately. You don't have to know what your life looks like on the other side of something like this before you've even started walking through it. What you have to do is just keep walking. Put one thing in order, then the next. Don't make decisions from the floor. Get up first. That's what I did. I got up first. I still use the perfume, which probably sounds strange, but I liked it before he gave it to me, and I'm not going to let that become something that's ruined now. Some things you just have to hold on to. You decide what belongs to you, and you keep it. 6 years is not nothing, but it also isn't everything, and for the first time in a long time, I've been waking up in the morning and thinking about what I want, not what we want, not what makes sense for us, but what I actually want. That feeling is new. It's uncomfortable sometimes. It's also, if I'm being honest, a little bit like breathing fresh air after a very long time indoors. I don't know what happens next, but I know I'm the one writing it now, and that's enough for today. There's something I've been sitting with since all of this happened, and it's not anger or grief, not anymore. It's more like a slow recognition of how things actually work. Not fate, not luck, just cause and effect, playing out the way it always does, whether we're watching or not. My husband made a choice. Actually, he made dozens of choices. Small ones first, the kind that are easy to rationalize. A text here, a dinner there, a hotel room that felt far enough from home to pretend it didn't count, each one built on the last, and together they created something that couldn't be undone. That's how it usually goes. We don't end up somewhere in one dramatic leap. We walk ourselves there, step by step, convincing ourselves each step is small enough not to matter. What I didn't expect was to learn something about myself through watching that unravel. I had to be honest, genuinely honest, about what I was looking at, even when every instinct I had wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. That first charge at Camelback Inn, I almost let it go. I wanted to. Being honest with yourself is harder than being honest with other people, because there's no one to perform it for. It's just you and what you actually know. I chose to look. That choice mattered more than anything that came after it. And then I had to think. I'm not saying that like it's easy, because when you're sitting at your kitchen table at midnight with a folder full of screenshots and a dog who keeps resting his head in your lap like he knows something's wrong, thinking clearly is the last thing that comes naturally. But I'd been trained to work with numbers, with evidence, with cause and effect. I used every bit of that. I didn't act on emotion. I didn't send an accusatory text at 2 a.m. I built a timeline. I called an attorney. I moved money. I waited. Thinking your way through the worst moments of your life is an act of self-respect that nobody gives you credit for, but it's the thing that kept me standing when you walked back through that door. And then there was the staying part, the part where you have to keep going after the conversation happens, after the separation is filed, after the friends find out and the family asks questions, and you're lying in the same bed you've slept in for 6 years, but it feels like a different country now. that takes something I don't have a clean word for. It's not toughness exactly, it's more like insisting on your own future, even when you can't fully picture it yet. I got up every morning, I walked Biscuit, I went to work, I answered my sister's calls. I did not let myself disappear into what had been taken from me. Those three things, the honesty, the clear thinking, the refusal to stop moving, turned out to be the only things that actually protected me. Not the anger, not the revenge fantasy, not the late night spirals, just those three, quiet and unglamorous, working together. I still don't know exactly what my life looks like from here, but I know I built the ground I'm standing on, and that's not nothing. That's actually everything.